Good morning, one and all. This is Dr. Diana. Welcome to session 37 on modern software engineering. After completion of the syllabus and its revision, we have started with this picture dictionary approach for learning modern software engineering practices. And with the picture dictionary, we have been looking into some of the agile keywords and jargons. The keywords for today are refactoring and code smells. When we talk about agile practices, the core change made from the traditional approach is the refactoring, or a way to make the code work better. And code smells help us identify where these pieces of code can be made better. So these two are going to be very key concepts in the agile practice, and they form kind of the base for the modern software development approaches. So we will be concentrating on these two for today's session. Now, when we talk about what refactoring is, factor is to find some means of doing something. So I say using a pipe for watering down the plants is one way of doing it. Using a water can for watering the plants is one way of doing it. So when I say factoring, it means I am finding out different ways of doing the same thing. And when I say refactoring, it means I am finding a better way of doing the same thing. Now look at this picture. This picture, as we know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. The same applies here also. Now, when you look at this picture, the input that you have is an old vintage car, and the output that you have is a fashioned car. Now, both of them serve the same purpose of transportation, but both of them have different quality in which they do the same thing. A vintage car is slow and it consumes a lot of fuel and its performance is low, whereas a speed car or a racing car has a very good design, very appealing to the eyes. It consumes less fuel, it has better performance, and all of these. So every time you see that the same operation can be done more effectively, it shows you a place for refactoring. So refactoring is the process of improving the task or somehow improving the performance in delivering of the same task. So this is how a refactoring is done. Now, in the first phase, or in the left side top of the picture, you can see that the old car is coming in. And in the second phase, or the second set of alley, you can see that some of the things are identified as smelling bad, or things that cause or slow down the performance. And then in the third phase, you check on it, you redo something. After pulling out all the bad smells, you put in some efficient parts, and on the fourth phase, you get a very good piece of product. In software engineering, it is essentially the code that is developed. So this is the process of refactoring. Refactoring is achieving the same task but more efficiently. So when we look into the definition, it says refactoring is a systematic process of improving code without creating new functionality that can transform a mess into clean code and simple design. Now when I say clean code, what does it mean? What are the features of clean code? Clean code is obvious for other programmers to understand. Clean code does not contain duplication of the code. Clean code contains minimal number of classes and other moving parts or functionality. Clean code passes all the tests that you have and it is working good without bugs. Clean code is easier and cheaper to maintain, which is why we strive hard in creating code that is clean. Now, when we say there is clean code, there also is some unclean code. So, uncleanliness in code can be duplication of code, can be repetitive work, or it can be inefficient work, or it can involve a lot of parameters doing the same thing, or it can require more memory for running. All of these are aspects of unclean code, and unclean code is also called as a technical debt, a technical loan that unless you clear, it will not work efficiently. So which is why we always try hard to bring out the best code possible or the cleanest code possible. Now, refactoring fits inside the larger picture of test driven development. So in test driven development, we see that you start on the top with the red bar face. Before you even start coding in, you think of a feature that is to be developed for the software. Say for example, an attendance report is a feature that the software needs. So you can think of an attendance report, and then once you start, you think of a test first, or you write a test where it checks whether you have got your attendance report or not. Obviously, the test would fail because we have not started writing the code. So the second phase is to write sufficient amount of code for your code to pass the test. My test am I able to check attendance report? I am not able to as of now. So I write some code that can help me view the attendance report. Once it is done, I get inside the green phase. So after the green phase, I have passed a test. So I have a feature that is tested. Now the next is you have a piece of workable code, but how do you improve that code? So you dust out all the inefficient parts of the code, and then you have some bit of clean code. So this is the test driven development cycle, and the major idea in test driven development is refactoring. So we are going to concentrate on refactoring, and agile methods form a base with refactoring. Now I have said refactoring is required for us to produce clean code, but how do I identify uncleanliness in code? So if I require clean code, I need to clear out the uncleanliness or the dust or the dirt in the code. How do I identify dirt in the code? So the second process of identifying spots for refactoring is use of code smells. So code smells can guide us to spots which require refactoring. So code smell is something, it happens because of multiple reasons. A smelly code means the code has some dirt or some dust or something junky in it. Unless there is some junk, it will not smell bad. So there are few code smells that can be identified immediately, and those provide us spots for refactoring. Code smells are not bugs or errors. Instead, they are absolute violation of the fundamentals of developing software that decrease the quality of code. So I can see that the quality of the code is decreased because I violated one of the programming principle. Because multiple teams work in parallel, each person is responsible for coming up with a clean piece of code, but if they don't, it must be easy for the others to identify uncleanliness. So code smells help us identify them. And code smell is any characteristic in the code of the program that possibly indicates a deeper problem. So if I can identify those areas, then it is easier for me to refactor or to change that code so that it performs better. Code smells, having code smells does not certainly mean that the software won't work. It would still give an output, but it may slow down processing. It increases the risk of failure, and it has errors while making the program vulnerable to bugs in the future. So it's not essentially a bug or an error. It's only a deteriorating factor. Smelly code contributes to poor code quality and hence increases the technical debt. So our idea is to come out of this code smell. Once you see that there is something stinky in your code, identify that spot and then start refactoring that spot. So that's how you do the refactoring. So some of the code smells that are shown here are object-oriented abusers, change preventers, dispensables, bloaters, couplers. All of these are different forms of code smells. The first code smell we will see is called as divergent change. Divergent change occurs when unrelated changes affect the same class. I am making two different changes on two different features, but I see that the same class is getting affected every time. It is an indication that your class involves too many concepts. So to overcome this code smell, you will have to split it and give each concept a different home. Now this is a class which has very large number of concepts. So once I start making two different change, it is getting affected with the same class. So the way to overcome it is to use or to separate these into two different classes. So I have split the same functionality into two different classes, each having less number of features or performing less number of tasks. So this is one form of code smell, and this is how you refactor when you have that particular code smell. The next is called as shotgun surgery. A shotgun surgery is just the opposite. It occurs when you have to modify multiple classes to support changes to the single idea. I want to achieve or change only one feature, but I am not able to do it because that functionality is spread across into multiple classes. So this is the problem that we have, or this is the code smell. I have one feature to change, but it is affecting a lot of classes to achieve that particular change of feature. So in order to achieve this or to refactor this code smell and to achieve better performance, I have to merge the required classes. I can merge these classes and I have to encapsulate them into proper ways so that the same principle or the same task can be achieved more effectively. So this is how we refactor when we identify the shotgun code smell. So I hope you understand, when there is a code smell, it shows you where to change, and a refactoring method helps you change that piece of code. Now the next code smell is called as primitive obsession. Primitive obsession means some implementations represent high level of design concepts with primitive types. For example, a decimal might represent dollars, but you can't use the same data type. If you use the same data type, it becomes very hard to handle. So you can encapsulate to form your particular data type and then start using it as a class instead of using it as a primitive data type. So to explain this code smell, you can identify that the data is being presented in this form, which is of primitive nature. These are the primitive data types available in your language. But if you want to use the same data type to represent some higher level entity, then you might have to build your own data type or build your own class to encapsulate these primitive data types and help you represent a better data type of your own. Or you can, this is more like customizing your own data type. So once you complete your customization, your data type is unique to yourself and you have an encapsulated view of your primitive data type. This is what we have created out of all the primitives that we had with us. So this is how we refactor a primitive obsession code smell. Now the other type of code smell is called as a data clump. A data clump is where several primitives represent a concept as a group. You have lot of primitive things and you put it inside a group. And now this group is unable to perform all the tasks of the primitive. So you might have to break them down and encapsulate them properly. Now imagine my data has multiple primitive types. So the way of this data type is to create methods for all these primitive types. So my class becomes too obese to handle all of these aspects. So that's the code smell that we have. In order to overcome this code smell, it's very natural that I divide the class into multiple smaller classes and encapsulate them properly. When I do that process of refactoring, splitting down, I achieve a better performance where these primitive types are independently handled and the performance of the system is much better. The other code smell could be a wannabe static class. A wannabe static class is where you have a class with a lot of methods, but they don't have a meaningful per object state. Or in other words, even if I declare all of its methods and data to be static, still the class will work fine. Which means I am not doing any meaningful operation on these data sets which are available in the class. So I need to modify some of my methods so that they work better, or they provide some dynamic data for the project that I do. The next aspect is called as a data class problem. When programmers put their data and code in separate classes, this problem arises. This often leads to duplicate data manipulation code. So I have some data put separately and I have some methods put separately. Whenever I try to access the data, I write a fresh piece of code for manipulating the data. So it causes a lot of duplication in the code, data manipulation code. When you have that class, you might have to add a lot of getter and setter methods to the same class and encapsulate them properly. To see what exactly it means, you can see I have a lot of data in my hand. All the data is available, but I don't have any methods for using these data. Such is called as a data class. This is one particular code smell which is very, very commonly available in so many pieces of code. So to overcome this code smell, the way to refactor is to find right methods and put the methods along with the data in the same class. This is practically very hard to achieve because the data is available commonly across multiple teams in the agile development scenario, but the methods are developed parallelly by the teams themselves. In that case, there could be multiple teams that work on the methods, so the methods get isolated from the data themselves. So the idea is to come up with the methods, put them inside the same class, and then put it inside, check in your code inside the repository, so that people don't develop the same methods multiple number of times. The next possible code smell is a codling null. A codling null is a scenario where multiple null references are used. So these null references that you insert inside the code, they in turn cause a lot of errors. So that is called as a codling null. Now, sometimes the null makes it its way inside the database. So if the user does not enter a value in the screen, your code allows pushing a null value inside the database. Now, once this is pushed inside the database, you will see lot of recurring application failures every time you try to fetch that data from the database. So instead of coddling with null values, you should adopt a fail fast strategy, which means when the user is not giving you a particular value, instead of pushing null on behalf of the user, you cause the application to fail. You throw an error message to the user and make the user enter some value there, so that you don't have to push a null value to the database. So this is called as a fail fast strategy. You make the code, or you make the code fail by yourself, so that you need not push a null value. So don't allow null values as parameters to any methods or constructors or property unless it has explicitly defined semantics. So if you have explicitly defined that null means so and so, only then you can allow null values to enter inside your code. Otherwise, don't allow. And you can throw exceptions to signify errors rather than returning a null value. So this is the fail fast strategy. You need to throw errors to the user so that you don't have to manage those null values. The other form of code smell is called as a half-baked object. A half-baked object, or anything half-baked, will smell bad. So the same way goes with code also. When do I call an object as half-baked? When there are time dependencies, when a class methods must be called in a specific order. Imagine I have a class and I have a set of constructors and I have a set of methods. And imagine I started using one of those methods, and that method requires that some of the other method has to be completed earlier in order to make sense for this method to execute. I have not defined it in the constructor itself, so it doesn't get cooked up to that by default. Imagine I have egg. You break open the egg, put it on the pan, and then you leave it to cook. So breaking up of the egg is one task, and cooking of the egg is the next task, right? You have a constructor for taking the egg from the refrigerator, and you have a method for cooking it on the top, on the pan. But you don't have a method to break open your egg. Imagine that way. So when the constructor is called, you have already taken your egg, but there is a method for breaking open the egg. I have not used that method. I directly started with the method for cooking it on the pan. So imagine placing the entire egg on the pan. Will it cook well? No. It is called as a time dependency. So my time dependency requires that the constructor is called first for taking the egg, then the method is called for breaking open the egg, then I have to use the method for cooking it on the pan. So unless I follow this order of calling my methods, my object that is evolved out of using that class becomes improperly cooked, right? So this is called as a half-baked object. A half-baked object are a special case of time dependency. They must be first constructed, then initialized with the method call, and then they must be used. Unless they are used in this order, they will not work correctly. So time dependencies often indicate an encapsulation problem rather than managing its state itself. So the class expects its callers to manage some of the state. So that's called as a half-baked object. Now this results in bugs and duplicate code in the callers. So this usually causes a lot of errors. And the way to overcome is to encapsulate the methods properly. So you should be able to handle the object state by yourself instead of expecting the user to do it for you. Now, to close with on the concluding remarks, we can see refactoring is the process of changing the design of your code without changing its behavior, and code smell is any characteristic in the source code of a program that possibly indicates a deeper problem. So a code smell identifies a spot which can be refactored. Once refactored, the same task can be done more efficiently. So some of the major code smells that we have seen are divergent change and shotgun surgery, primitive obsession and data clumps, data class and a wannabe static class, and time dependencies and half-baked objects. So we have seen some of the keywords for this particular session. We will catch up with few more in the next session. This is Dr. Diana signing off for now. Thank you one and all.